What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of The Spiritual Word. As always, I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And as always, before I start these, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only, and to always do your own research, to come to your own conclusions, to make your own decisions, to have your own answers, and I believe in your ability to do so and to be your own person. And as always, thanks for tuning in and tapping in, my babies. I appreciate you. If you're new, welcome. I call my viewership my babies because I feel that's an endearing term. And if you're returning baby, you already know the drill. So I'm gonna be in the last podcast I started reading this book that's called Start Where You Are by Pema Chodron. And I got into the first chapter, so now we're going to do the second chapter. And I'm basically going to do a little bit of commentary here and there just because I feel like it would be better for us to have, ideas that we bounce back with each other. Even though you can't really bounce them back with me, you can comment or, find me on my other platforms. I always leave my Instagram in the bio in the audio version of this. Oh, and before I start this, I have an audio version of my podcast anywhere you can find audio podcasts. And I have a video version of the podcast on YouTube. They're both named The Spiritual Word. I'm your host, Jackie. I upload Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. If science, psychology, spirituality, self-help, and philosophy are things you're interested in, those are my main 5 topics. So, if you're in the audio version and you want to bounce ideas off of each other, then you can go to my Instagram, and I have it in the bio here. And in my Instagram, there's a link to the Discord channel that I use specifically for this podcast. So you can do that, or you can just go to the YouTube version of this and just leave a comment, and I always get back to the comments. So I say always just because right now I don't get a lot of comments, but if that changes, I might not be able to get to all of them, but just know that I try. So we're going into chapter 2. No big deal. That's the name of this chapter. No big deal. The practices we'll be doing help us develop trust in our awakened hearts, or our bodhicitta. And if we could finally grasp how rich we are, our sense of heavy burdens would diminish, and our sense of curiosity would increase. Bodhicitta has 3 qualities. It is soft, gentle, which is compassion. At the same time, it's clear and sharp, which is prajna. And 3, it is open. These are the qualities of a bodhicitta. We call Shanyata. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'm trying. So, and it is also, as we know, it is also known as emptiness. Emptiness sounds cold, however, bodhicitta isn't cold at all, because there are heart qualities, the warmth of compassion, and the warmth of compassion that pervades the space, and clarity. Compassion and openness and clarity are all one thing, and this one thing is called bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is our heart awakening, our wounded, softened hearts. Now, if you look for that soft heart that we guard so carefully, if you decide that you're going to do scientific exploration under a microscope and find that heart, you won't find it. You can look, but all you'll find is some kind of tenderness. There isn't anything that you can cut out and put under a microscope. There isn't anything that you can dissect or grasp. The more you look, the more you find just feelings of tenderness tingling with some kind of sadness. This sadness is not about somebody mistreating us. This is our inherent sadness, unconditional sadness. It has a part of our birthright and a family heirloom This is called the genuine heart of sadness. Sometimes we empathize. Emphasize. Sometimes we emphasize. Sorry. Sometimes we emphasize the compassion. Hold on, I feel like I need to add commentary in that last one. That last part really got me. It was good. Hold on. Where is it? The more you look, the more you'll find the feelings of tenderness, tingled. Oh, tingled? With some kind of sadness. This sadness is not somebody mistreating us. This is our inherent sadness. Unconditional sadness. I've never looked at all of the feelings. I've never looked at them as unconditional. I've only ever looked at love as unconditional. But I guess it makes sense that anger is unconditional, happiness is unconditional, peace is unconditional, frustration is unconditional. All of the feelings are unconditional, which is something that I've never looked at before. So I just wanted to point that out. Sometimes we emphasize the compassionate aspects of our genuine heart. And this is called the private, or the relative part. Private. This is called the relative part of bodhicitta. Sometimes we emphasize the open, unfindable aspects of our heart, and this is called the absolute, the genuine heart that is just waiting to be discovered. The first slogan of 7-point mind training, the first training in the preliminaries. The preliminaries are the basic meditation practice. Beneficial, supportive, warm-hearted, brilliant. Samantra Vispashina practice. Bear with me, can barely read. When we say first train in the preliminaries, it is not as if we do these practices and then graduate to something more advanced. These practices is not only the earth that we stand on, but it's also the air we breathe and the heart that beats inside of it. The practice is the essence of all other practices. So when we say first train in the preliminaries, it simply means that without a good basis, there is nothing to build on. Without it, we couldn't understand the Tolglen practice, which I'll describe later. And we wouldn't have any insight into our minds, into our craziness, or our wisdom. Next, there are 5 slogans that emphasize the openness of bodhicitta, the absolute quality of bodhicitta. These point to the fact that although we are going to get caught up in the solidness and seriousness of life, we could begin to stop trying to make things a big deal and connect with spaciousness and joyful aspects of our being. The first slogan is regard all dharma as dream. More simply, regard everything as a dream. Life is a dream. Death is also a dream. For that matter, waking up is a dream, and sleeping is a dream. Every situation is a passing memory. We went for a walk this morning, but now it's a memory. Every situation is a passing memory. As we live our lives, there are a lot of repetition, so many morning greeted, and so many meals eaten, so many drives to work, so many drives home, so many times spent with our family, with our friend's family again and again, over and over. All of these situations bring up irritation, lust, anger, sadness, all kinds of things about the people with whom we work or live or stand in line or fight traffic. So much will happen in the same way over and over. It is all an excellent opportunity to connect with this essence, to connect with the sense of each situation being a memory. Just a few moments ago, you were standing in the hall. Now it's a memory. But then it was so real. Now I'm talking, and what I have said has already passed. It is said that these slogans are pointing to the absolute truth, openness. One could say, "Oh yes, I know," but one should just allow the mental gap to open and wonder, could it be? Am I dreaming this? Pinch myself. Pinch yourself. Dreams are just as convincing as waking reality. You could begin to contemplate the fact that perhaps things are not as solid or as reliable as they seem. Sometimes we just have to experience automatically. Sometimes we just have this experience automatically. It happens to us naturally. I read recently about someone who went hiking on a mountaintop and was alone in the wilderness at a very high altitude. If any of you have been at high altitude, you know that the light there is different. There's something more blue, more luminous about it. Things seem lighter, not as dense as in the middle of a big city, particularly if you stay there for some time alone. There is something, not sure if if you're awake and or asleep. Hold on. I'm like tripping right now. You're sometimes not sure if you're awake or asleep. This man wrote that he began to feel as though he were cooking his meal in a dream. And that when he would go for a walk, he would walk towards the mountains that were made out of air. He felt that the letter he was writing was made out of air. That his hands that at his hands, excuse me, was a phantom pen writing these phantom words, and that was going to send it off to a phantom receiver. Sometimes we too have that kind of experience, even at sea level. It actually makes the world feel so much bigger. Without going into much more, I like to bring down the practice. This key, it's no big deal. We could all lighten up. We can all just lighten up. Regard all Dharma as a dream with our minds. We made big deals of ourselves, our pain, our problems. If someone instructed you to catch the beginning, middle, and end of every thought, you'd find that you don't seem to have the beginning, middle, and end. They definitely are there. You're talking to yourself. You're creating the whole identity, your whole world, your whole sense of problems, your whole sense of contentment will continually stream. Is good. This. Where was I? Your whole sense of problems, your whole sense of contentment, with this continual stream of thought. But if you really try to find thoughts, they're always changing. As the slogan says, each situation and every word, thought, emotion is a passing memory. It is like trying to see when water will turn into steam. You can never find a precise moment. You know that there is water because you can drink it, you can make soup, you can wash it, and wash in it. And you know that there is steam that you cannot see precisely when one changes to the other. Everything is like that. Have you ever been caught in a heavy duty scenario of feeling defeated or hurt, and then somehow, for no particular reason, you just drop it and it goes? You wonder why you made much ado about nothing? What was that all about? What was that all about? It also happens when you fall in love with somebody. You completely are thinking about this person 24 hours of a day. You are haunted by him or her so badly. Then a while later, I don't know what went wrong, but the feelings is gone. I just can't get back to it. We all know this feeling. We make things a big deal, and then realize that we're making a lot out of nothing. I'd like to encourage us all to lighten up and to practice a lot of gentleness. This is not the drill sergeant saying, this is not a drill sergeant saying, lighten up or else. I have found that if we can possibly use anything we hear against ourselves, we usually do. For instance, you find yourself being tense, and remember, I said lighten up. And then you feel basically, I'd stop sitting because I can't lighten up. What? Basically, I'd better stop sitting because I can't lighten up, and I am not a candidate to discover bodhicitta or anything else. Gentleness in our practice, in our life to help awaken bodhicitta. Gentleness in our practice and in our lives helps to awaken bodhicitta. It's like remembering something. This compassion, clarity, this openness are like something we've forgotten. Sitting here, being gentle with ourselves, we're rediscovering something. This is like mother reuniting with her child, having been lost each other for so long time they reunite. I'm sorry, I can't. It's like mother reuniting with her child, having been lost to each other for so long time, they reunite. The way to reunite bodhicitta is to lighten up in your practices and in your whole life. Meditation practices is a formal way. Meditation practice is a formal way in which you can use to lighten up. I encourage you to follow the instructions faithfully, but within a form to be extremely gentle. Let the whole thing be soft. Breathe out. The instructions to touch on your breath goes as it goes to be with breath. Let it be relaxing out. Sense the breath going into a big space, dissolving into space. You're not trying to clutch it. You're not trying to furrow your brow. Furrow your brow. I don't even know what that means. And catch your breath as if you won't be a good person unless you grab that air. You're simply relaxing outwards with your breath. Labeling our thoughts is a powerful support to lightening up and a helpful way to reconnect. This open dimension of our beings, this flesh, unbiased dimension of our mind. And when we come to this place, when we say thinking, we can just say it unbiased, with an unbiased attitude and tremendous gentleness. I'm sorry. I just be making up words. I just see the first letter and I just make up a word. Tremendous gentleness. Regard the thought as a bubble, and the label is like touching them with a feather. There is just a light touch of thinking, and they dissolve back into space. Do not worry about achieving. Do not worry about a perfection. This can just be there each moment as best you can. This light, hold on. When you realize you've wandered off again, simply very lightly acknowledge that. The light touch is the golden key to reuniting our openness. The slogan to regard all dharmas is regard everything as a dream. In this case, regard all thoughts as a dream. I want to talk about the dream aspect of that. I've talked about that before, and I've talked about that with some of my friends who aren't Buddhists, which is also kind of fascinating to me. Anyways, I don't want to make this extremely long, but basically, I've already not necessarily trained myself, but actually, I take that all back. I did this practice yesterday, and I did it as I was going to sleep, just because I have a really hard time falling asleep. Like, that's something that I struggle with. I literally take sleep aid, like pills to go to sleep, or melatonin. And melatonin, your body gets used to that after a while, so I stopped using melatonin and I purely stick to like sleep aid stuff. And also, don't worry, they're natural, and I make sure that I don't take anything that will hurt or harm your body to the extent of like addiction or something like that. You know, like these pills are not addictive, and they're natural, and they're using natural chemical, well, how do I say this? Natural ingredients that your body needs to produce in order to go to sleep, like magnesium and stuff like that. So, and I took a magnesium pill yesterday, and when I tell you I was out cold. I was out cold. So, I did this practice right before I went to sleep, and I practiced the part of gentleness, and I've been practicing the part of gentleness for an extremely long time, just because I have a tendency to not per se overthink. I have a tendency to be very rough with myself and to perceive myself in this high level regards for myself. Like, it's not that I'm trying to purposefully be mean to myself, but I see myself in such a high light that when I mess something up, or when I, you know, um, play into these certain situations, like family dynamics or like friend dynamics, where obviously I'm not getting the same amount of respect or love or compassion or whatever, then I take it and I beat myself up, because why did I let myself be in that situation for so long? And so I have a tendency to overthink like really mean things to myself. It's not per se bad. I just have a tendency to be mean. And in my experience with that, what really awoke me to that was the fact that like I was letting my mind wander, and I was just watching my thoughts. Like, I remember I was just laying down, and I had no reason to be asleep or like to go to sleep at this particular time. And I lay down in my bed, and I'm like listening to everything that's going on in the room, and obviously I'm not alone in this room. And my parents walking through, and they somebody brings food, and then they all start sitting around where I'm sleeping. Well, I'm not sleeping where I'm laying, but they think I'm sleeping. And after like 10 minutes goes by, they all leave, and I'm watching all of this happen while I'm watching my thoughts happen. And a lot of the thoughts are like, they're just really rough. They're not gentle at all. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, so this is something that I have an issue with. Not that it's like a necessarily like a problem. It's not a problem per se, but it's something that I've noticed that I have a tendency of doing. And so I've done my best as of from that moment, from realizing that, to do better in the sense of like being gentle and being more playful when it comes to the things about myself. Like this morning I woke up, well, this morning I didn't wake up early, but I woke up today, I went to the mirror, went to go brush my teeth, and when I was looking in the mirror, I did like a really silly thing, which I had my hoodie on, and then I put my ears, or I put my hoodie behind my ears, and I looked like an elf. And normally, I wouldn't be mean to myself in that situation, just because like it's a like I'm trying to be silly, but usually I'd be like, oh, okay, calm down. Like there's sometimes where I don't let myself do certain silly things, even in the privacy being by myself, because I'm like, okay, I don't need to be doing that. And in that moment, I was like, I need to practice gentleness. But anyways, I digress. So I just went on a whole tangent, but I was laying down doing the practice, and then boom, I fell asleep. And the whole point of the practice for me in that moment was to just like get myself to relax and get myself to not think. So every time that I would hear my thoughts starting to go, I'd just be like thinking. And then I'd allow myself, to settle in again, and then I'd notice that I'd be thinking about something else. Like I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to." It wasn't even like bad thoughts either. I was like, "I can't wait to get to chapter 2." And then I'd be like thinking. And then I'd be like, "Oh, I have to do this." And I'd be like thinking. Or, "Oh, what am I going to eat tomorrow?" Thinking. Like it wasn't even bad things, and I think that that was a very pivotal moment for me without even realizing that that was a pivotal moment. Anyways, as much okay, when you notice that you're making a big deal, just notice that with a lot of gentleness and a lot of heart. It's not a big deal if the thought if the thoughts go and you're still anxious and tense, then you could allow that to be there with the space around you, but just let it be. When thoughts come up again, see them for what they are. It's not a big deal. You can loosen up, line up, whatever. This is the essential meaning of the absolute bodhicitta slogan, to connect with the openness, spacious quality of the mind, so that if you can see there is no need to shut down and make such a big deal about everything, then when you do make a big deal, you can give that a lot of space and let it go. A sitting practice, there is no way you can go wrong. Uh, Whenever you find yourself, just relax your shoulders, relax your stomach, relax your heart, relax your mind. Bring in as much gentleness as you can. The technique is already quite precise. It is a structured. It has its form. So with that form, move with a warm and gentleness. That is how we awaken our bodhicitta. So that was chapter 2. And because I went off on a tangent, I'll end this here. So we're gonna get into chapter 3 tomorrow. And chapter 3 is called Pulling Out the Rug. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in and tapping in, my babies. As always, I appreciate you. I love you for being here. And there would be no me without you. So, with that being said, I hope that this was helpful in any way, shape, or form, or let alone just entertaining. Watching me mess up as many times as I did. Maybe you were counting. You could play a drinking game. Anyways, with that being said, thanks for tuning in and tapping in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.